Okay, so welcome everybody. Welcome to this awards masterclass webinar. My name is Claire Dewhurst. I'm the director of City Nation Place, and thank you very much for joining us. I can see that some people still are, but I'm going to kick us off. So today we're going to be looking at what we can learn about the key ingredients of a successful place brand or marketing strategy from some of the past award winners to the City Nation Place Awards. We're going to look at what it takes to be a winner, and we're going to finish with some encouragement to enter and also some advice on how to create entries that will engage our jury. And so, of course, I'm delighted to be joined today by two members of our global jury. So hello, Irina Tostusov, who is the head of country brand promotion with Invest Moldova.
Hello,
And
everyone.
well done. And hello, Lucy von Weber, who is the head of marketing with Visit Wales. Good afternoon from Wales. Delighted to be here. Thanks so much for joining us. And I look forward to chatting and to hearing what you think about the entries I've selected in our discussion very shortly. But let's kick off with the presentation. So this took me longer to put together than perhaps any other, because it's all too easy, to go down that wormhole of reading and reviewing entries all over again, of watching all the wonderful videos and looking through all the presentations, which really demonstrate that sheer breadth of work that's carried out by government teams, destination marketing organizations, investment promotion agencies, and economic development corporations. So I had to discipline myself to looking just at the winners from the past 3 years. And the first category that we're going to look at really shows the diversity of what we mean by citizen engagement. Our finalists over the years have included places researching and engaging with their citizens to understand the essence of their brand and how to communicate it, and sometimes places who've gone on to actively involve citizens as ambassadors in the storytelling of their place. And of course, we saw a huge increase in citizen engagement activity in the awards entries during COVID for obvious reasons. But some of the ideas that came out of that time are still inspirational. They still stand that test of time today. So I'm going to start by looking back at our 2020 winner, which was Helsinki. Now, we know that there were places all over the world creating virtual experiences, both for their citizens and to engage visitors or investors. And I think for our jury, this story from Finland had that little bit extra. So just to give you some background, May Day in Finland and in Helsinki is a big deal. It's called Vappu. And in an ordinary year, there would be thousands of people on the streets of Helsinki, and particularly in the square and the gardens around this statue that you can see here, I think. They'd be celebrating together. And obviously, that's not a good thing to do during COVID. So Helsinki and partners created a virtual event that not only engaged a quarter of the country's population, but also, given the scale of the event, grabbed media attention around the world. So through PR and earned media, the story reached 500 million people worldwide. What made it work particularly well for the judges, though, was that this whole strategy built really naturally on Helsinki's existing place brand strategy, which was to be known as a digital forerunner. It was an extension of an existing project to create a virtual Helsinki. And we're actually going to be looking forward to hearing about the latest iterations of this virtual Helsinki initiative at the City Nation Place Global Conference in London in November. Our 2021 winner presents what I guess some people would view as a more traditional citizen engagement strategy. But again, I would say that Fort McMurray Wood Buffalo, which is a region in Alberta in Canada, showed real ambition. The ambition was to reclaim the narrative, which had been owned by external perceptions, and to build a firm foundation for a place brand strategy. Their objective was to start to attract people, visitors and citizens who shared their values, recognizing that this only works if the image shown to the outside world reflects what's inside. So this case study demonstrates that to deliver real citizen engagement, you need to be totally committed to the process of listening. The team at Fort McMurray Wood Buffalo raised the bar in delivering a continual process of developing the narrative, resharing it with their community, developing it a little bit further, resharing it with their community. And you often hear about place brand strategies being launched to an outraged response where citizens only see a logo and hear about the budget and don't understand what the strategy behind that was or what the objectives are. Fort McMurray with Buffalo's dedication to that process of citizen engagement ensured that that didn't happen. And our 2022 winner in this category demonstrated another very different kind of citizen engagement, a response to a crisis. When Russia invaded Ukraine on the 24th of February 2022, Moldova found itself in the eye of the storm, with refugees pouring across its border. As a country that had been part of the former USSR, there were still many pro-Russian citizens within its population. And the government recognized that it had a communications crisis and that it needed to unite the nation in supporting peace. So their citizen engagement strategy began with a weekend of engaging with their professional creative sector. And by ensuring that all government department stakeholders were collaborating with the process, they were able to launch a national campaign, Moldova for Peace, just 5 days later. And that also happened to be on the 1st of March, which happens to be the date of a national festival celebrating love, health, and the hope of spring. So their campaign reached 2 million people, around half of the population of the country. And as the crisis continued, it continued to build it on social media, sharing Moldovan pride and Ukrainian gratitude. This campaign has proved to be the foundation of a communication platform for Moldova's international strategy to build its reputation and attract investment. Moldova as a small country with a big heart. So this, of course, was an extraordinary situation that none of us really want to be in. And so can there be any lessons to take away from other places? I think perhaps just that effective crisis management requires speedy collaboration, while crisis communications need to be rooted in authentic culture. So here's a few speedy examples from other finalists with more actionable inspiration. Last year, the jury loved the story from North Dakota. Talent attraction is a huge challenge around the world, but it seems to particularly resonate in North America. And the team in North Dakota realized that what they had to offer incoming talent was rooted in their strong community values. So they've harnessed the community and they've trained up volunteers, not just to be ambassadors, but again, one step further, also to be personal resettlement advisors. They connect individual inquirers with individual North Dakotans to learn more about what it's like to live there. So it's a small scale activity, but with a real potential. Looking back to 2020, the Brand Lithuania team recognized the growth in gastro-tourism, but also the lack of a Lithuanian cultural identity around food. 50 years of Soviet occupation, followed by a speedy adoption of fast food culture, hadn't allowed a local food culture to develop. So they consulted with their community of chefs and then with 10,000 citizens who took part by voting for their favorite dishes. This strategy then ensured that there was a national menu available in restaurants throughout the country. And they created a cold beetroot soup map, which you can see here, to encourage Lithuanians to sample the menu. And then in turn, this became the foundation for the country's gastro-tourism offering. So staying in Lithuania, let's move on to look at the winners in our communication strategy categories. And the first lesson we have to share is that humour not only engages audiences, but also when it's done right, it definitely engages the City Nation Place Awards jury. But of course, that's because humour needs to be rooted in insight and not just humour for humour's sake. So let's start by looking at a case study from Vilnius, which is the capital of Lithuania. However, the Go Vilnius team research showed that only 5% of their target markets actually knew where Vilnius was. I'm sharing how Go Vilnius encapsulated this challenge in their written award entry, and you can see how well it's written and that it would immediately engage with our jury. They created a fully integrated campaign, engaging audiences through gentle humour, driving traffic to a website to play the Where is Vilnius game, to learn about Vilnius, and crucially, again, that little bit extra, with a direct link to book travel to Vilnius. So let's just watch their video.
Wait, what, sorry?
Vilnius.
Vilnius.
It's,
Vilnius.
Which one?
Vilnius. It's Austria.
Welcome to Vilnius, Austria, the undiscovered jewel of the Alps. Vilnius is characterized for having most of its landmarks just a few minutes away from each other by foot. This admirable city is in the heart of Austria.
Vilnius? In Italy?
In the heart of Italy, being its most well-kept secret. Its effervescent streets and colorful markets make it a perfect destination for any traveler. For obvious reasons, Vilnius is the pride of Italy. The pride of Finland. Vilnius's old town, considered one of the biggest in the region, is crowned by the majestic Gedimino Tower, where travelers like this young fellow, hello there, buddy, can have the same view that the old ruler of Finland, the old ruler of Venezuela.
Sweden?
Sweden.
Belgium.
Oh, okay.
Ethiopia.
Of Ethiopia.
Romania.
What if I told you that Vilnius is the capital of Lithuania?
Oh, never know.
Yeah? Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes!
Welcome to Vilnius, Lithuania.
I love the self-deprecating humor of that ad. And as I said, the whole integrated strategy behind it. Now, Iceland has won the tourism communication strategy in both 2021 and 2022. These campaigns are so successful, you might well have seen them before, but they're definitely worth watching again. And the key to their success is that the humor is rooted in empathy. So here's the first campaign.
Terrible stuff continues to happen. Experts say that
Yes!
Of course, that's not just rooted in empathy, but also in the tourism offer, in the amazing landscapes of Iceland. And to read about the impact of that, I think the case study is open on our website. If not, we have the award showcase books and you can read. It had an immense reach and a lot of earned media too. And the next campaign builds on that. It also has to really impress just because of the speed with which it was created in response to a news item that had grabbed global attention, which was the launch of the metaverse. So here is the Iceland verse.
Hi, and welcome to this very natural setting. Today, I want to talk about a revolutionary approach on how to connect our world without being super weird. Some said it's not possible. Some said it's out of reach. To them, we say it's already here. Seriously, look, it's right here. And what do we call this not-so-new chapter in human connectivity? The Iceland verse. Enhanced, actual reality without silly-looking headsets. In our open-world experience, everything is real. And has been for millions of years. It's completely immersive, with water that's wet With humans to connect with. You're human, right? Isn't she funny? In the Iceland verse, there's real moss you can look at, but please don't touch. It's very delicate. Skies you can see with your eyeballs. Volcanic rocks you can caress. Really big geysers you can observe from a safe distance. Birds you can watch. They're really cute, but a bit stupid. Waterfalls you can stand near, like this one, that one, this one, that one, and even this one. Horses you can ride, with hair you can touch. The Iceland verse is a world with possibilities so endless, they'll be here forever. So join us today, or tomorrow, or whenever. We are really easygoing. Now, please enjoy our logo.
So I think the lesson here is that if you have a strong platform and a clear understanding of who you are, then you're able to respond more quickly with really authentic and effective communication. And again, the viral impact of that ad was immense, and the entry actually was able to demonstrate how it led to inquiries for travel and intention to travel. In the world of investment attraction and economic development, humour is probably less likely to be used. Empathy is still really important. Thinking about your audience first and what you can offer them second. So our 2022 winning entry from Denmark started with a common challenge, I think, the world over, that need to recruit talented engineers and tech developers. They researched with relocated executives to understand what had motivated them to move. And they understood that engineers are driven by an understanding of developing and improving systems, by a responsibility to make an impact, and by a desire, they want to be empowered to find solutions. So the Danish machine creative concept connected all of that to the strong quality of life proposition that Denmark offers. Let's watch their video.
Life is like a machine.
Every component is dependent on the others. Society is also like a machine. Every member is important to keep it running.
Denmark is a high-functioning and smooth machine.
We maintain the machine by allowing ourselves to recharge.
And by generating and improving ideas,
We keep the wheel spinning. But sometimes, a few parts are missing. That's why we want you to help us out. To take apart the puzzle,
and bring it back together.
reconfigure and sustain the Danish machine. Explore your future here and help create the solutions of tomorrow.
We'll make sure it works for you.
As it does for us.
So the Danish team also recognised that this really highly sought after audience were quite passive job seekers. So they used social channels where their targets were already interacting rather than running those ads around traditional job sites or traditional sites. And the campaign was all about generating leads and recognising that there's a real long tail on talent attraction. They achieved over 21,000 email signups, which was 112% over their KPIs and was the lowest price per lead ever achieved. Moving from Denmark back to Finland, their winning entry from 2021 in the best communication strategy for a place brand is a fantastic example of a non-advertising strategy. Finland wants to be known as a nation that believes in equality, and they also saw this value as core to their talent attraction strategy. And the judges, again, appreciated the ambition of this entry. Finland doesn't just want to be known as a nation that values equality, but also as a nation that promotes equality. Han is a Finnish gender-neutral pronoun, which is rooted deep in the country's history, not something recently invented. And the Han honours are diplomas presented by the Embassy Network to people, to groups and to organisations who are working locally in their own country to bring more equality to their surroundings. So it's a big idea with a big impact and a really small budget. The recipients of these awards are so surprised and delighted that they amplify all the messaging for Finland. Our 2022 winner in this category was a campaign from brand Scotland. Scotland's exit from the European Union, combined with COVID, had devastated the country's economy, its art, culture and tourism. And they have an aging population, so they needed to present the country as innovative, progressive and inspirational. And they used the occasion of hosting the COP summit and welcoming the world to Glasgow to launch this campaign. Again, this campaign is rooted in insight, but most nation brand campaigns show what a nation offers. They chose to focus on why Scotland focuses on what it does. And they created a campaign with a huge emotional appeal. I think this is the last video I'm going to watch, but let's just watch the film.
Can you be rich without mountains? Can you be rich without sea? Can you be rich without wildlife? Is that the way riches should be? What is the value of flowers? And what is the value of air? Would we really profit if none of that was there? This is a country of riches, worth far more than pounds and pence. If you could invest in the future, this is the place that makes sense. Scotland's always been inventive, always aiming high, supporting leaps in science, helping ideas fly.
We're learning for the future, acting now for what's ahead.
We're standing up for what's right and saying what must be said. Because we are a place of equals and we are creating things anew. It may not be easy, but that is what we do. Céad Míle Fáilte. These are words that we hold dear. We are Scotland, and good things live here. If you share these feelings too, Scotland's waiting and open to you.
So we've talked about ambition, commitment, and rooting strategies in insight, and that's why we have a best use of data category. In 2021, Brand Lithuania had probably the longest award entry title ever, the single institutional system for foreign media and social network monitoring for tracking the image of Lithuania abroad. Their entry demonstrated the importance of cross-government collaboration. And as this chart shows, that's true of national governments, city governments, or local councils. Collaboration is essential. Buy-in from all stakeholders makes a difference when you're trying to deliver a holistic understanding of your place brand. Lithuania were constantly open with the data to ensure continued engagement, and they were also kind enough to sum up their own learnings from the process. So here's what they recommend. Create an inter-institutional team with defined objectives and responsibilities. Deliver training for the team by media and social media network monitoring experts. Understand what it is you're doing. Invest in a tool or platform to provide a dashboard and tailor that to the need of all the participating institutions. Share your data and, of course, define the deliverables. Our 2021 winner in this category was the nation brand in Chile, and they showed an equally determined commitment to the process. They invested in survey ways in specific markets, but they shared similar learnings. They also strategically shared results at all stages of the process to engage their stakeholders and public opinion in the process. So onto a slightly more visual category, the best use of design. We are continually emphasizing that place branding is not a logo or identity design, but this category shows how, when it's done well, design adds to the development of narrative, the engagement of stakeholders, and the management of reputation. Our 2020 winner was Bergen in Norway. And their story shows design in action to change perceptions. The previous Visit Bergen branding and imagery was tired, it fulfilled cliches, and the city was marketed as the gateway to the fjords, implying you travel through Bergen to get to somewhere else. Importantly, the team in Bergen recognized that you can't control the imagery that is shared of your nation, your city, or your place. And they wanted a solution that could live alongside other corporate and institutional brands. So they created an open platform. And it was great for the judges to see how other stakeholders took up the brand in their own communications. Our 2021 winner was Zoodoost. I think that probably pronounced differently, but for me, I'm pronouncing it Zoodoost. This is the youngest district in Amsterdam, with residents with over 130 nationalities. a strong sense of a separate identity, but also a feeling of being undervalued and underrepresented. Zudust is also still growing, and it's projected to be as large as the country's 10th largest city in just 20 years. So the brief for the design identity was asking a lot to preserve and enhance the unique characteristics of the district and to provide a bridge between what exists now and what's being developed. The secret of success, again, was great citizen engagement in the process, and the resultant brand platform just wowed the judges. That place brand identity that you can see is rooted in Amsterdam's coat of arms, but also in the colours and the flags of all of the constituents' nationalities. It's a design that can be used by individuals, by organisations, and by the community. And that extra bit, to use the identity, you have to give back to the community with action or with money. So, for example, if you're a larger business, you might pay for a smaller business to incorporate the design into its marketing. And it's been readily adopted by the community. Our 2022 winner was altogether different. We've had a city, a neighbourhood, and in 2022, a nation. Costa Rica's nation brand strategy has so much to learn from, but this entry involved the team working with the government to create new passports designed by a Costa Rican team for the first time and designed with the imagery of all the core values and pillars of the Costa Rica nation brand. We think this was a first. Okay, I'm conscious of time. We are racing around the world with this review. The Place Brand of the Year category is perhaps the ultimate accolade. And over the past 3 years, again, we've had a city, a region, and a nation as winners. But what made them stand above the rest? Auckland's challenge was that its reputation was perhaps overshadowed by the strength of the nation brand, and research showed that it lacked emotional appeal. But how did they impress the jury with their response? Well, from the start, the Auckland Unlimited team set out to engage all stakeholders so that the resulting brand platform felt owned by the city. And in particular, they engaged with their Maori citizens, embracing the Maori cultural heritage and renaming their whole organisation as Tataki Auckland Unlimited. They built a huge library of content and they created a playbook to share the brand with the city. And this was a strategy that was repaid during COVID. They had all the materials they need to launch their brand, even during lockdown. Our next winner, Tasmania, impressed the jury with their really thoughtful and challenging approach to developing a place brand. The team recognised that Tasmania was a place lacking in confidence, that it was isolated, underestimated, and perhaps misunderstood. So rather than work with an agency to create a traditional brand platform, they spent a really long time gathering stories from the citizens of Tasmania and synthesising the common threads into an expression of cultural identity. Again, they didn't believe they could force this strategy on government teams or on the private sector. So they became a client service organisation with a mission to inspire and encourage Tasmanians to quietly pursue the extraordinary. They created tools to help the government teams, companies, and people tell their own stories with this common thread of quietly pursuing the extraordinary. And they were imaginative with their communications. They created a podcast to share the story of their own development as an organisation and explain their work. And that actually became a training tool for place brand teams all across Australia. And this approach, positioning themselves as a client service organisation, has led to them working on actions such as working with business and trade to launch incubators to encourage more small and quietly extraordinary businesses. And that's delivered really speedily and measurable results. What was the core estate in Australia has led the country in employment growth and population growth. Last year's winner was Estonia, a nation which has been building a strong brand since 2017. And that brand was originally built on 3 core messages: digital society, what is our country like? Independent mind, what are the people like? Clean environment, what's the space like that we live in? And these pillars, together with, again, that really collaborative structure between government departments, form a strong foundation for sub-brands and for building civic pride, for attracting talent investment and attracting visitors. So what was it that really impressed the judges last year? Well, again, it was a response to the invasion of Ukraine. Estonia introduced a 4th pillar, democratic values, presented as a reflection of the vision and reality of the country. We're actually going to hear how this strong place brand is proving to be the foundation for public diplomacy during the ongoing crisis at the global conference in November. What really impressed the jury was the team's ability to introduce this fourth pillar really speedily with credibility and collaboration across teams, and to communicate it domestically and international to contribute to the security of the country. So, well, I hope you feel that I've delivered on that opening promise of a whirlwind tour of great approaches to place branding and place marketing. And as I said, these represent such a breadth of places, of organizational structures, of objectives, and of solutions. But it's difficult to pull, 3 consistent lessons, but I'm going to lead it with the words that I think I've used most often: collaboration, responsiveness, innovation, insight, authenticity, values, pride of place, commitment, and ambition. I've never thought about ambition until I reviewed these entries together. But I do think that the organizations behind the entries all display that ambition to make a real difference to the communities that they work for. So if you're feeling proud of your work and you're ambitious to win an award, I hope you'll be entering this year. And let's turn back to our judges, to Irina and Lucy, who've joined us today. Irina, you were up there as a winner last year. Tell us a little bit about what that meant for Moldova, but also, how that itself has been a foundation for your work over the past year.
Sure. Thanks, Claire. First of all, I want to say congratulations to everyone who has won, who has applied to winning, who has been shortlisted. Even now, in this 20-something minutes, I wrote down so many ideas, so many creativities within all of these great campaigns. What it meant winning for us. First of all, I want to say that for Moldova, we just understood that there is an organization as City Nation Place that year only. So we are, and we were very virgin still at this type of initiatives in the country branding or country communication. So we were not generating idea to be part of the challenge or to be part of an award. This situation happened, and only afterwards we understood that our example can be an inspiration for other countries, other nations as well. And for us, of course, it meant, first of all, a feeling of being proud, of validation from outside, and in the context of applying for a best citizen engagement. Of course, this type of feeling, it matters a lot, because you communicate with people and you communicate to their values, you communicate to their ideas, and you want to be understood correctly, especially with the fragile context of speaking about the war, speaking about the feelings it brings, about the reaction of people, because you cannot really forecast how people will behave. All of what Claire says is, in fact, focusing on what you have on the inside of your country, not looking for inspiration and not looking for something on the outside. What the ideas, the feelings, the values, you have it already in your country. And this is what you have to translate to the external audience. First of all, get the validation from the inside. And there's the many words that were in that sort of cloud are really part of what an initiative, a campaign is all about. But for me, what stands out, it's 2 words or 3. First of all, this is the authenticity. You just cannot fake an initiative or a campaign. People will understand when all of this is just marketing tool or change of logo or just words that you cannot really communicate with. So second of all, this is the courage. And for many of our activities, but also for the past winners, I've seen the courage of even understanding that you might look funny for the outside world, but you still think that this is what we are feeling now. And this is what we want to transpose, that perhaps we will look silly, we will look funny, we will be not understood, but this is the step that we will take. And of course, what is important, this is the collaboration. Without the collaboration, you have nothing. In our case, without the collaboration of the government, the creative industry, none of this would have been possible. Of course, the urgency was there. We have a huge crisis and we have to respond to it. And the government understood it right away, that you have to communicate to sort of manage all of this emotion that people have. They try to understand how to feel about this sort of situation. Plus, we had the wave of refugees from Ukraine because Moldova received the biggest number of refugees per capita. So we wanted to bring a message to those refugees saying that we were spreading our arms and our houses to accommodate all of them, and they will be receiving a peaceful home and a shelter when they will cross the border in Moldova, because not everyone
And
would know.
that's become the foundation for what you now speak about Moldova to the rest of the world. The Moldova small country with a big heart is something that you now
Definitely.
express externally, isn't it? Brilliant.
Yes, definitely. This was built. This message was sort of extended internationally and built upon already for the year that followed, and now, of course, as well.
I think that's key, and I think a lot of those entries showed, that what really impressed the jury is that they can see where it's going next. But Lucy, can I come to you? What stood out for you from that little tour of past winners and things? Yeah, absolutely buzzing with things. It was great. What they all shared was that kind of passion and innovation. I think what I really liked about it was the different approaches. I love the fact that it's not all about having a big budget. And, I kind of in my list, in my head, I have a list of about the top 6 things that I would give as tips for people doing this. Right at the top is authenticity. And included in that, as well as finding your voice, staying true to your brand in the way that, for example, Helsinki did. They had a new and an innovative thing, but it was rooted in the brand they already had. Alongside that is being authentic, and it's not about budget. It's not about huge budgets. If you look at that Han example from Finland, I love to see that, because sometimes when you see fantastic jazz hands, wonderful promotion, you do think, oh, this is not for us. This is not in our league. And I don't want anyone to think that, because it's really not the case. It's the content. It's not the total execution in terms of the budget power that you bring to it. It's the execution of your brand and the sincerity and the authenticity you bring to it. I also love the fact that Fort McMurray and Buffalo really showed, which is what is often maybe not some of the most glamorous elements of marketing that people think of, that iterative process of keeping people engaged so that you bring everyone together. And I think that really demonstrated it beautifully. So authenticity, I think, advice to people who are looking at doing this: make sure you're relating clearly the results of what you're doing. Keep it tight and keep it easy for people to understand. And in a way, you did that because you encapsulated all of those things in each of those country presentations. It was very quick, but it was what they were trying to achieve, how they achieved it, and some of the outcomes. Not all about numbers. I think things like some of the engagement there and some of the empathy and the passion, including some of the Moldova activity. It's about some of the softer outcomes as not just these hard KPIs and return on investment figures. So think about how you brought people together. You probably have long-standing, I'm sure you do, Moldova in a arena, long-standing networks now of people who are working together collaboratively, may have been brought together by this activity, but there's a lot of sustainable legacy from it. Don't be afraid. And I always try and think about this myself, because you tend to always go for hyperbole and superlatives. And don't be afraid if something went wrong or something didn't go according to plan, to cite what happened and to show how you either resolved it or how you've dealt with it and how you've grown after it. And I think that shows always quite a bold approach to things, just to admit that actually we tried this, but it wasn't working, and we amended it, and we took a different path. And I think it shows a lot of honesty to do that. And I think probably there's a couple of obvious ones. Finally, it's stuff like use all the resources available. The City Nation Place site has got some great reminders. This will be on there, I'm presuming, Claire, as well.
Yes, it will. Yep.
And just don't rush it. That's my biggest piece of advice. One of the best things about the City Nation Place brands, apart from all the other reasons, is that you get a really decent time to really fine-tune your application. And in our case, and we are submitting one this year, I have to say, I'm not judging any category that we're submitting. But our plan is we've drafted it now. Some of us will go on holiday. We'll come back. We'll peer review it. We'll share it around a few of the team. We might even ask a couple of our stakeholders who've been really involved to say, be a critical friend. Are we really sort of bigging ourselves up too much? Did this work? And then write it again, final draft, just before the closing date. And try and get it in before the 7th. Don't leave it till the morning of the 7th.
Yes.
7th of September, exactly. That is the entry deadline. Now, if anyone's got any questions, I see that Katie's put that in the chat, but we are and can take those questions for you. Or you can also, if it's about entering, you can email awards@citynationplace.com and we can answer you there. I'd like to go back, Irina, to what you were saying about being, one of the lessons out of what we've looked at in terms of being happy to laugh at yourself, because it can sometimes go wrong. And I think, if any, I haven't looked to see who's registered on this webinar, and it might be our friends in Regina. We had the economic development team in Regina speak for us in Americas, but the tourism team ran a campaign recently, which really didn't go down well. And in fact, Vilnius ran a campaign once, which didn't go down well with their own citizens. Because it's all right to laugh at yourself, as long as that's what your own people are doing. It might, if you see that there's an external perception of your place, like nobody knows where Vilnius is, you don't lead on that unless your own people are happy with us and happy to laugh at that, because otherwise I think it can go horribly wrong.
I think in here, I just want to give just at a glance an example. In UK, in fact, there's a board game which is called Where is Moldova? And, it's very popular because some people even think that this is, not a real country. And they're playing it. And after they come to us, they say, but I know about Moldova. I had a play at home. And none of us is thinking, oh my God, this is so rude that people don't know where Moldova is or people are playing. And I think there's a lot of curiosity and a lot of, silliness and a lot of, fun even into this type of activities. I believe this is what needs to be understood, is that we are living in an era where human connections and human values are becoming more and more important. With the growth of AI, robotics, and everything, we will either way come back to what humans really believe in, their values, what is that element which connects them, because we will still be those people which will be seeking for other people, our peers, our society, our community. And this is where the essence of all initiatives, in fact, are within bonding different types of communities under one idea, under one umbrella, under one message, even if it's on the inside or on the outside as well.
Yeah, I do. I think that's the purpose. I see there's a question come in which says, if you've already entered and been finalists once, is there anything to stop you entering again? No, nothing to stop you. You can enter in the same category. You'll see that there is, so for the best use of data, for the best use of design, and for the communication strategy categories and the citizen engagement category, there is a qualifying time period when the work that you're entering needs to have been carried out. So you shouldn't be able to enter exactly what you entered before, because you should have moved on with it. It should be a new part of your campaign or a development of your data strategy or your citizen engagement strategy. The only category that looks at a longer time frame is the place brand of the year, because there we very much recognize that a place brand is not just for Christmas. It's for life. And so as I say, Estonia won last year because they built that strong foundation up for years, which enabled them in the qualifying year to do that extra thing. Or in the year that Auckland won, it was because that was a year when they were supposed to be hosting all these big events, and their establishment of a strong foundation for their place brand meant that they were in the right place to host the world at these events. If COVID hadn't struck, unfortunately for them, but there we go. So no, absolutely, you can enter if you've entered before. Any final words? I have some others on how to enter, actually. I love what you said about superlatives. If we have as many entries as we had last year, then the judges are reading quite a few. And so that opening challenge is really important. And you should all be experts at telling a story and creating a great narrative. Do that with your entry. Bullet points of achievements. Don't engage the jury in quite the same way. So try and tell a story with your entry. Don't use superlative phrases. We are the best at everything, because nobody really quite believes that. And we want to see your honest work and what you identify as things that you're particularly good at, or where you had a challenge and what you've been doing to solve that. And also when it comes to results, relate those back to what your objectives were. I always use this example, but it's a very simplistic one. If it's a marketing strategy campaign, if it's a communication strategy and you're entering a marketing campaign and your objectives were to change perceptions, then talking about reach in your results isn't as relevant. We want to see that people's opinion was changed. And obviously that lesson can be extrapolated to other categories. Any final words of advice, Irina? Any final words of advice for people entering?
I want them to know that this is such a creative exercise. This is such an exciting adventure. It just makes you think and generate ideas and be bold and smart and think of yourself through various lenses. Because while we were participating at the City Nation Place Awards, I was looking at all the contestants and semi-finalists, and I was looking at all of this creativity around us, and I was thinking, yeah, we did that too. We can go into this idea, we can explore that. So I believe when the participant will look within their environment, they will see a lot of potential, and they will I urge them to think of what will represent them most. What is that thing that the international audience would like to know about them? Because this is what changed for us as well. People started to know that, wow, Moldova exists, they're very active, even if the war is really at the border, that they do have a creative industry which is very active and they're just as emerged perhaps as the other countries. So, and this is mostly for the smaller countries such as Moldova. So just be creative and just define a storytelling way, just make it interesting for yourself primarily.
I think the process of writing an entry is sometimes very useful for you as an organization. Before I come to you, Lucy, I've been reminded that because I've been focusing on past winners, I've been focusing on the categories that have been around for a few years, but we do have a new category this year as well, probably most appropriate for cities, but open to ideas. And this is the award for the best place making initiative. So we're looking developing your place attractiveness proposition is a key element of a successful place brand initiative. And our 2023 survey that we did earlier this year suggested that more destination marketing organizations and economic development teams are focusing on investment in product development and placemaking. So we've got this new category, which is designed to celebrate the best projects implemented to create and enhance public spaces, or to foster community interaction, or to build the attractiveness of a particular district or a town or a city. It might be about urban design or landscaping. It might be about cultural programming. We'll be looking, this is a long description, we'll be looking again for that collaboration between stakeholders, including the government, including the community, private sector, tourism and or economic development. Take a look at that category as well. Before I come to Lucy for her final word of advice to anyone thinking about entering the awards this year. Oh, I might have got a question to answer as well. Come to you, Lucy, and then I'll look at the question.
Okay, so my final, all of what you said really, and what Irina has said, really well sums it up. But keep your brand as your umbrella. Be honest, be authentic, write with the passion that you delivered that project with. Make sure that comes across. And it will, if you're writing honestly and you're writing within, with that brand sort of wrapped around you. And this is a really practical one because I've fallen foul of this in previous things. Not this, but in previous ones. Add supporting information because it's blooming amazing to see some of the material, but always make sure that something you really want to pull out is not hidden in there. It's a bit like having a CV and thinking, well, I've given my CV, so I won't put it in the application. Just bring it out, use that supporting information and pull out your best bits. Very practical.
It's a really practical piece of advice. And often, we see that the judges are reading a lot. They're very, what's the word? Very devoted and we'll look at supporting materials. But if it's something you absolutely need people to read, it needs to be in the main entry. I have one question here to finish with, thanking us for this session. So thank you very much, ladies, for joining us and asking if there's any coaching available for the prep of the entry. So if you go to the awards website, we do have some top tips there. Hopefully the advice you've heard today is helpful. And if you want to sort of read past entries summarized, then the showcase books from previous years are a good idea of the kind of things that have been included. But really, I would say look at the top tips, which we have put on the awards website. I think there's a video there. So thank you so much, Irina. Thank you, Lucy. Lovely to see you both today. Thank you for your words of advice. I'm looking forward to the judging. It's always the best day of the year. Love it. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today and for listening. And I really hope that you're going to be planning to enter that award entry deadline 7th of September. We look forward to reading and being inspired by all of your best work. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.